I'm supporting Bernie Sanders because I feel like right now, as far as who's running, Democrat or Republican, Bernie Sanders is by far the only person with a different agenda than the mainstream politicians.
I would say it was within the last year that I started to read a lot about elections being fought by people with a lot of money and about how the divide between lower class and the upper class is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So those are two things that have been on my mind a lot, and thinking about, how could I get involved to try to help make some change in those areas. So when I learned about Bernie Sanders and some of the things that he's most passionate about, particularly when he's making his stops and his talks, those seem to be two big points for him. I would say I was just kind of immediately drawn to him and interested in him. And then when I read, the rest of his views, I just agree with everything. So this is actually the first political campaign that I've gotten involved with, and I'm very excited about it.
It's like, why wouldn't I support Bernie Sanders, actually? Anyway, I like Bernie Sanders because of all of the above, but and I was just mentioning it to my friends, it's been 20 years since I've been telling people the best way to fix politics is by making elections public, getting rid of the money in the system, right? And Bernie's like the only person who has ever said those words that I've ever seen. So just on that alone, yes. But then, of course, if you give me a few hours, I'll be able to tell you 20 other reasons why. But let's just stick with that one.
For me, Bernie kind of represents exactly what I would do if I was president. Basically, I've just been kind of seeing all these problems that have been going on in the world, and Bernie kind of just is the answer to a lot of the questions of how we can change things. And he's someone that I'm just kind of been getting excited about, just with his ideas that show us that this change is possible, and that we can tap into this energy that I feel like is underlying a lot of people's feelings and frustrations with the system.
I'm supporting Bernie Sanders because I love the fact that he's been so consistent throughout his career and the way that he's voted for people, and that his policies, based on what we know on data-based decisions, support increasing the middle class. And I feel passionately about that as a millennial who is not easily able to pay her student loans.
I think that Bernie is got a lot of the same beliefs that I do about how to get back our country and get us back on the right track financially and reinstate the middle class, because it's been through so much in the past 10 years, 15 years. And I think he's got a big heart, and he'll do the right thing in getting rid of all the money out of politics.
Bernie Sanders represents more of what I've believed in terms of policy for many, many years than any major candidate I have ever heard about in my life. It's like, finally, I'm glad I lived this long.
I've known about Bernie Sanders for close on 20-some years. I've known about him ever since I was a student at Warren Wilson. I was a residence hall director in the dorm, and the RA had transferred from Sterling in Vermont. And this would have been right when Bernie had been elected to Congress. He'd already served as mayor. And I became aware at that point in time of Bernie Sanders. And I've noted over the years. And I was saying 2 years ago to my son that I really hoped that Bernie Sanders would throw his hat in the ring, hopefully in the next election, and I would vote for him if he did. And when he announced, of course, it's clear that that's what I was going to do. I was going to support him.
Sure.
Totally for Bernie. I know enough about him that, a lot of people are just finding out about Bernie, and they have lots of questions, or they think they really have lots of questions. They have a lot of blank space to fill in. For me, best way to put it, there were only a couple issues for me that I had reservations about with Bernie, and I feel very satisfied in that I've taken the time to really look at his record and really listen to what he said. In this case, that would be, I was reticent about his stand on Gaza and Israel in general, and I was reticent about his stand on guns. And since then, I've really looked at it, and I can definitely appreciate his perspective. And I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I encounter a huge number of people, as far as the gun question is concerned, who they automatically go to the Second Amendment extreme. It turns out that they don't actually hold those beliefs. They're just paranoid. They're afraid that of just blanket gun control. And there's no nuanced conversation that they can detect. And then the same thing happens for a lot of Democrats. They don't think there's any nuanced conversation that they can detect coming from what they think is the right, which isn't necessarily the right. It's just people who aren't necessarily in an urban setting. And Bernie was able to express very clearly, from his views, representing a much more rural state, Vermont, exactly how it was that it worked for them, and he understands the difference between Vermont and basically a more of a hunting culture, something very akin to down here. Once you get outside of Asheville, it's total hunting culture down here, and that's what a lot of people are going to be concerned about. They're going to be concerned about their dogs. And with Israel, I can appreciate a nuanced position. I understand automatically the fact that his entire extended family were killed in the Holocaust. I can certainly understand that he sees a definite need for there to be protection of Jews, and also for there to be protection of a Jewish state. And he's been a firm backer of a two-state solution. And I think that's one of the things that's lost a lot, is people don't realize that he actually has been one of the firmest supporters for a two-state solution. And he's been highly critical of the government of Israel as far as its heavy-handedness. At the same time, what people are going to hear is they're going to hear that he's going to say that, Israel has a right to respond because if rockets are fired from Gaza. And he has stated that. And if you look at only that one statement, it seems like an incredibly unnuanced view. But if you actually look at his record and you see what it is he supported, he's one of the least hawkish of all of them.
Well, because he tells the truth. I'm worried about the world we're living in and the environment. And I have 2 grandchildren.